Hey, what's good, everyone? Welcome back to Sneaker Convos. Let's see, the series of conversations that had the last minute change of names, and I guess it's always good to have curveballs and learn the ropes when you first try to do something. So this is the first time that we try to do as Sneaker History and my friend Joe with Cove Youth Brigade try to do like an online event like this publicly. So we're learning as we go, but it's been a hell of a ride so far. We've had a lot of good conversations. And honestly, that's like the thing that I miss the most about sneakers is I like to talk. If you are anywhere near any of the content that I create, you know that I can ramble for a while. So I'm going to do a little bit of rambling, but I got on some guys that I think will also introduce you to some new ideas. And specifically, I want to talk about building communities and kind of, I guess, building communities, but also just like, knowing when to go after what you're going after. Because I've been lucky enough to know these guys for many, many years. And I also know they've been through a lot of ups and downs. And what I think is most fascinating, and we'll get into this, but like part of the benefits of like going after it yourself and creating your own thing and whether you want to call that like being an artist, being an entrepreneur, being self-employed, whatever that is, like it's all kind of the same self-discovery that in the beginning that we'll talk about. In the beginning, that's sometimes like the hardest part to even have the confidence to do that, because like you got to make sure the rent's paid, so guys, Chris, Gary, I got Chris, Nightwing2303, FreeHandProfit. How you guys doing? Welcome to the show. What's good?
What's up, man? Thanks for having us.
How's life in I think we all kind of expected 2021 a year ago to be much different than 2020, and it seems like the same bullshit's still happening. So
what was it? It was like within 3 to 6 days. that shit was a big slap to the face, man. They were like, "Nah, man, hold my beer." So yeah, it's been an interesting ride so far. It's been interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanna like let's actually talk about first, like, I guess taking those initial steps to commit to yourselves, right? Because we've talked throughout the years about like you guys do things that are completely unique to you, right? And stuck to that approach through a lot of reasons that most people would have shut it down and went home or went and got a regular 9-to-5 job and like kind of just let go of the dream, right? So I'll ask you this first, Chris. Like other than just hooping, like why YouTube? When did you kind of think like this YouTube thing is going to happen?
Well, I mean, I guess like first, like why get on the platform in the first place was just I felt like there was a hole in what was at the time sneaker YouTube. So there was the OG guys. There was like Fran, who's still on Franelations. There were Sneak Geeks, DJ Dells, stuff like that, and they were all making very good content on what was coming out, but nobody was talking about anything performance-wise, which is my number one, or was my number one reason to even look at a basketball shoe like a Jordan or a Tempo, whatever. It's because like I was playing basketball, and so when I started playing basketball again, I was just looking up reviews and stuff like that, and there were none from a performance side at that time. And so for me, I'm not like a big like writer or anything like that. Like I don't feel like I'm like the best at that. I'm not even like great at speaking usually, but so I don't know why the hell I'm here, but but yeah, so for whatever reason I saw these guys doing it on YouTube, and they were talking about the things that they wanted to talk about, but they weren't talking about necessarily the things that I wanted them to talk about. And I can't go and complain to them and be like, hey, can you talk about the performance if this fool doesn't hoop or whatever, or can you explain to me the differences between the material here and why it costs this much or whatever. And like they probably don't know. So it's like, these are all things that I've deep dived into since I was a young kid. And And so I just decided to pick up a camera and put it on the YouTube space. Usually it'd be like this though. It'd be like this. So like that's how it started, you know. So like pretend like my shoe is right here and stuff. So like nobody, you know what I mean? And so like I was okay with that, even though I was like still like mad nervous about it and everything. And then just like as things progress and stuff, it's just like oh, there's other people like me, you know what I mean? And so that was like probably the point in which that I did not think that I could do this for a living. So I'll just put that out there. Like I was just like, oh, this is cool. So that's all it was. It was kind of like a different forum, a different type of forum than like a Soul Collector forum or a Nike Talk or whatever, and stuff like that. And then at that time, you needed to get either you applied for it and got approved, or they sent you an email asking you if you wanted to be a YouTube partner. And so like, but back then, like you would hear about like the dude that got his, or the kid that got his teeth, you know, took out and whatever, and like he got hella high, and like they made a video about it, and that video went viral and stuff. And so like that kid got like hella money or whatever, and stuff like that's kind of like what like TikTok is like right now. It's like do with the ocean spray cranberry thing and like stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it was like that back then. And then so I got an email from the YouTube partner thing, and they were just like, hey, like your channel is doing this, this, and this. You meet this criteria. Did you want to be a YouTube partner? I was like, fuck, this is cool. So like I signed up for it, and that was like in around a November time frame way back then. And I remember telling myself, yo, in like 5 years, I'm gonna make this my job. And 12 months later, I got my first paycheck from that, and it was like $100. And I was like, damn, fool, man, this is never gonna this is never gonna work, man. And so like yeah, so it was just really weird the way that it all had, you know, blown up. It was one of those right time, right places type of thing, you know what I mean? Like I was just happened to be there when things went off and stuff. But again, like I know what I'm talking about and stuff like that, so I guess that's helped me along the way. But yeah, it was never the thing. Like I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna be a YouTuber. Like that was never a goal.
So how long do you think that? What was the timeline from like, you know, uploading your first video to actually getting like, let's say maybe not that first $100 check, but maybe like a check that was actually like, okay, this could be like something I do full time?
You know, I don't know, because I always would compare whatever I was getting to what I was making at my real job. And so like, it was like, well, I'm not making that much, so I need to at least make that much, you know what I mean, to be able to live. And then I also had kids. And so that makes it even harder, because this thing that I do is based off of viewership and ad revenue. And both of those things are extremely volatile at any given moment. So like I've been like the top sneaker channel, and I've been the worst sneaker channel, like as far as like subscribers and views and stuff like that. So it's like it doesn't matter like which one you're at, it just matters on which one you're at that moment, you know what I mean? And so yeah, so I was always working hella side gigs. I was working at a small blog called Sneaker Files at the time too. So I was earning $300 a month to write articles, because each article was worth $3. And so I was writing hella articles, man. And I was just like, this is gonna be my sneaker money. You know what I mean? And back then, $300 would be your sneaker money for the month. Now, $300 won't even get you the fucking shoe. So it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's so much different. And so, yeah. And so I was doing all of that, and I was just like, damn, fool, like I'm never gonna do this shit. And then I remember I talked to you, and I'd also started my own blog after Sneaker Files, which was like a pivotal moment for me, which was like, oh, whatever I'm doing for them, I could easily be doing this for me, right? And so like I did that. There were some personal things that happened in between that shifted me to like really make that decision. But I made that decision, and then I remember talking to you, because I was going to be in New York, and you got me a meeting at Complex to talk to their ad network, and I believe her name was Bailey.
Yep.
At the time. And so I had a meeting with her. I was mad nervous, and it was like the nicest building I think I've ever been in my life. And I was just like, this is like Complex money, dude. Like this shit's crazy. And so I walked out of there thinking that moment was going to change my life, right? And so and I don't even remember what year that was, but like that was during the Kicks on Court days and stuff like that. And as you and I both know, I've been fucking knocked to my knees many times since that moment. So it's a never ending, just like, bro, if you're not ready to hit that ground running, man, like you might as well pack up and go home.
Yeah. And just to be fair, like, or transparent, like that was like the nicest building I had ever been in too, right? Like I was, and
Well, I don't
you know,
know. You've been
I have
all over
lots
the
of
place.
love. I have lots of love for Complex, right? Like they for the longest time were just the people that like kind of covered the shit that I liked, right? And especially with YouTube on, right? Like between the music, the art, the sports, the sneakers, like there's a lot of stuff that I just looked up to them as kind of the place to get my information before the internet. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was definitely challenging because, like, as you guys know, I didn't make enough to live in New York off of my Complex salary, right? Like I was side hustling everything I possibly could to make that happen, which I think is just like a common denominator when you're trying to figure out how to do your own thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
but that said, like Gary, I want to also ask you kind of like your journey into this too, because even though like from the outside, I think people look at like what Chris does on YouTube and what you do with your, you know, the physical art that you create. A lot of the process to me is very similar, and a lot of the ups and downs they might not be at the exact same times, but we all still got to deal with them. So maybe talk a little bit about how you know, like first got into the mask thing. You've been doing this on Twitter, going back through them all, you know, and it's a beautiful thing because, as I told you before, like when you did the Stormtrooper mask with the multicolored, I forget what shoe that was, but I think it was a Superstar with
Adidas
the
Super
multicolored
Skate mids.
super
Yeah.
skates. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that fucking blew my mind. Like, look, I was writing for probably Nice Kicks or Complex or Soul Collector at the time, and I literally wrote on my own personal site about that because I was like, this is fucking crazy. And I don't even know if you saw that back then because, you know, it was
There's a
like,
good
again,
change.
like I was trying to just like do my side hustle in, you know, like I had the job, but I was like Chris with trying to figure out dealing with, you know, other sites and like how do you own this whole thing. So what was it like for you getting started? I guess like even take us back a little bit further. How'd you get to the mask idea? Because
Sure.
you were onto something completely unique, right? And it's something that has like you've diversified it in so many different unique ways. That's
It definitely has some legs on it. So
yeah.
if I do the full rewind back, it all stems from a Mask 365 project, which was a year-long daily project where I made a mask every day for that year. But to tie it into kind of making the transition into it being a full-time job at that time during Mask 365, I was working at a custom t-shirt shop here in LA and basically designing and printing shirts for other people. I also had my own clothing line. And at that time, it kind of felt like nobody was buying clothing or t-shirts or whatever from anybody unless, you know, you had why am I going to buy a t-shirt from you? For me, you're buying a t-shirt from me because I'm the artist, I designed this. And so it was about making sure I was making art every day. If I'm calling myself an artist, I need to be practicing that, you know, that talent. Um, so fast forward a little bit, after Mass 365, I continued with the sneaker mass as my focus, and that led to the Adidas Stormtrooper helmet, which was kind of it was a big jumping board. The blogs had kind of picked up a little bit before that, which was the Jordan 1 Lakers mask with the Lakers one with the strap. So they saw that, so bubbles started coming up. But I was actually transitioning from the t-shirt shop to working as a designer for an independent label. A friend had just gotten a independent deal. Whole label formed around the release of his album, and they needed a designer, merch, album covers, promotion, all that type of stuff. So I started learning a lot of the marketing that it took to kind of introduce a creative project to the world, actually market the rapper, the artist, and the product, and how that all intertwines. Um, and about that time, I was getting that attention, not just from well, thanks to guys like you, Nick, because you were writing for yourself, you were writing for other blogs. You know, Chris, you may have been doing the same. Like, but that was like the era of blogs. So once blogs picked it up and kept running with it, it was on the Playboy blog. It was on Attack of the Show. I'm trying to remember back because it was like 2011.
Damn, Attack of the Show.
Yeah, like these are things that just aren't even around anymore. But at that time, I was able to start selling the work, and commissions started coming in because of the word that was spread. And so, you know, I really got a sense like, oh, I think I found my people. Like, they understand why I'm doing this with sneakers. Like, I don't have to explain that part to them. It's just, oh, I get that. And that's when I left the work as the designer for the independent label and said, you know what, I'm gonna just keep making masks and see where this takes me. And it was 10 plus years ago.
That's dope.
Yeah, that is dope.
Yeah.
It's so it's interesting too, because I think you know, it's been a common theme in all these conversations I'm having, right? Like the work that goes into it, people don't really fully understand. And I think like you see, let's say 5 to 10% of the work, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Might even be less than a percentage, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's also like one of those things where like on the creative side, whether that's hooping, YouTube videos, art, marketing the art, getting the word out about the channel, you know, finding people to work with, finding people to partner with. It's like a never ending process, right? And that's the funniest part about this, that, you know, like people think that like you get to a certain point of Instagram followers, or, you know, like, look, like we all have those moments where we're like, I mean, I
There's
remember,
no setting it to coast, and you gotta operate that machine every day. Otherwise, you lose it.
Yep. And I was going to ask you, Chris, like, did you have that same, the interesting thing about this is like the daily aspect of you taking that approach at the beginning is something that I've done in various forms with a lot of things in life, because I try to take those actions to just change the shit that I hate about myself. But also with like writing blog posts, right? Or journaling, or, you know, even like at times just fucking like posting to Instagram, because sometimes I just hate posting, and, you know, I just want to be disconnected from social media sometimes. Chris, did you have the same thoughts with like creating the videos, or was it like, you know, that's a little bit longer of I mean, I don't know, the process for both of those, you guys have to work a lot to have the one output, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a lot of the same thing. It's just different, almost like ways of creating. So, like I was gonna interject with what you guys were saying just a second ago. Like you can't not think about things if this is how you work, right? So it's like if you're a quote unquote creative, whether you're a creative writer, a creative video maker, a creative mask maker, or artist, or whatever it is, your brain is just flowing. And that, for me at least, that's like it's a plus and a minus. Like, and that's like a daily like mental issue that like, it's just like, hey, when's my downtime? And my brain's like, never, bitch.
Never.
You know what I mean? Like it's fucking always on, you know what I mean? And like, and I'm just like, dude. And so like, it can be like pretty draining just being in there, you know what I mean? And so it's just really weird, because I would be in there either way. It's just that I'd be in there for a different reason. So it's like when I was a kid in high school, I was a freshman, and I was taking I think it was like computer programming or computer graphics, something like that, and on these like shitty little Macs and stuff like that. And then like we were learning about things like Angel Fire, and at the time that's when you can get a free domain and do your own little dumb blog or whatever. And guess what mine was about? It was fucking Jordans, man. And I fucking had them listed from 1 to whatever they were at the time. I think it was like 12 and 13 and stuff. And I had them, and I remember finding one of the first gifts of the Jumpman spinning. And then we had at the bottom, I can code a a people counter, so you could see how many hits he was getting. And then I would take that link and I'd dump it in an AOL chat room, and I was just like, yo, if you like Jordan, this is the site. You know what I mean? And so like,
yeah.
and this is 13-year-old me. I didn't think that was a real job though. You know what I mean? And so like, you fast forward to now, and you're just like, oh shit, that shit that I was doing just because it was fun is what I'm doing, and it's still fun, but like, it's what I do all the time. It's what I think about all the time. And again, like when you work for yourself, again, you don't have a choice. Your brain is fucking going, because tomorrow's paycheck's not guaranteed. So it's just like, am I doing, and especially if you got kids, am I doing the right thing right now? Like, that's like a constant like question, because it's not just like, this would be so much easier, this lifestyle, if I was single by myself, no dependents, maybe a fucking fish or something, like this is something that, you know what I mean? Like, that it'd be easy and shit, but like these are like actual humans that you got to make sure that you don't kill and shit like that, and that, you know, they don't fit down a toilet and stuff. So it's like, you got to be real careful, real mindful and stuff, man. And it's real wild that, like, even with all of those, I don't want to call them burdens, but just those challenges, where you could still find your way. You know what I mean? Like, you can still figure it out. And especially with the internet, I think was the key that links us. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's the thing, quite figuratively and literally, where we were able to connect with people like us, find that there was other weirdos about shoes or whatever like us, because we weren't called sneakerheads in high school. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, you got the new kicks or whatever, you're a rich kid or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, and like, I'm in my beat up ass, like, but I earned these. You know what I mean? Like, at least I paid for them. My mommy and dad didn't pay for mine, you know? And so like, that was the battle back then. Nowadays it's all about flexing and shit. And so yeah, so it's just a little bit different. But you know, if you're a creative, you can't help just what's happening up here, even if you unplug. Because I haven't been really posting on Instagram either. You and I were talking about this off air or whatever, about the analytics thing. Like, I've never been an analytics guy. I've always been like, nah, like, this is what I feel. You know what I mean? And so, and that's hurt me sometimes, but it's also kept me going. And so yeah, that's just what works for me. Everybody's different too, so that's also something to keep in mind.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that's an interesting piece to the puzzle that, you know, I ended up kind of on the business side for a lot of different companies, right? And it's a constant struggle for me, because on the one hand, like, I definitely don't feel like I always fit in on that side of things, but I also know that, like, you know, to like make it really, really simple, I like connecting people and I like creating opportunities for people. And for me to do that and get the most like satisfaction, most of the time, you know, I've got to go get a job with a place that I can actually have a little bit of, you know, authority, or at least a little bit of a green light to go make a mistake, to go test the waters, to go try something new. And I think that's kind of always it's always a back and forth conversation, right? Because on one hand, like, we all have both those sides of the brain, but we all lean very heavily into one or the other when we get into our shit that we love. And so I think that you know, to kind of circle back, like, the interesting thing about both of your journeys is that not only have you gone through all these like ups and downs and figuring it out, and like done the jobs that you didn't really want to do, but it was like, hey, this is a part of like getting to where you know, I'm learning the ropes and learning how to, you know, how to shift to, hey, this is my thing, and I'm only, you know, I'm moving forward with my thing, as opposed to like being over here. This year for me, so I kind of got to that point, you know, I get to that point, I would say every 2 to 3 years, where I'm like, okay, I want to go work for somebody, or somebody reaches out and I end up going back to a job. And, you know, I always want to be independent. I love all the opportunities I've had, but I don't want to sit in an office. I want the freedom that being my own boss comes with, you know, to like, you know, hanging up whenever I want to hang up, and going for a walk whenever I want to go for a walk, and all those things. But at the same time, like, the pandemic kind of, you know, it threw a like like a beanball at me in a sense, because once things shut down, it took about two weeks, and I went from 6, 7 clients to, okay, I might have one still kind of conversation. And thankfully, I, for the most part, was in a position where like I had been grinding so hard for the past 2 years to be like, okay, like let's step back and take a look at this and figure out what this means, as this goes on. And it's been challenging for all of us in different ways, but I think like one of the things that we started talking about before we started recording, one of the things that's really fascinating about the pandemic is it's making people look at how they spend their money and how they support the people that they like in ways that I don't think that we ever, I think some people are conscious of that, right? Like some people are like, this is the person I fuck with, let's go support. But like in the last 12 to 15 months, it's been like, there's been, a lot less money on the table to be spending for people. And when you spend that money, you're thinking about, hey, is this somebody I actually want this money to go to? And I think it's beautiful. And, the pandemic sucks, and I don't think any of that is beautiful, but I think there are things that are going to come out of it that are really beautiful. So one of the things that
in the cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we talked about is like you guys having, put in all this work to build who you are, what you do. And then on top of that, building the communities, whether that's the people making purchases, the people joining the Discord, the people on the Patreon. How has that been for you guys, with this whole last year or whatever?
I can tell you, I would not still be able to do what I'm doing if it weren't for the fact that I started my Patreon page back in, I think it was end of 2018, start of 2019. Without that, I definitely would have been looking for work, and having to shelve the dream for a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've kind of always had that as like a reality of like, you know what? I've worked jobs, 9-to-5 jobs all my life, probably shittier jobs than most would imagine. I've
been there.
I got it. Yeah, like the raise to minimum wage, I've never made $15 an hour working for anybody but myself. So like the opportunities are just different now too because of the pandemic. I have a wife with a compromised system, so I can't really jump out there and be in the 9-to-5. I kind of had to find a way to make this work when the events and the brand jobs dried up. It was about pivoting to the collectors that had been supporting me all along. And it's kind of a razor's edge to walk because they want to see me making sneaker masks. But if there's no money coming in from sneaker masks, I got to kind of make some different work because not everybody can afford that one of a kind piece. So, it's making resin work like the SB Reaper skulls that I just released, or the lace locks. Back to selling t-shirts again because of my Patreon community. And these are guys that have collected masks and supported for years, and are always telling me like, why aren't you printing t-shirts anymore? I'm like, well, because nobody buys them. They're like, well, we're gonna sign up and we're gonna buy one every month, start printing them up. I'm like, okay, let's go. And surprisingly, I think I've got a better grip on that than I ever have, even though that's what I was doing before I started even making sneaker masks, was printing t-shirts. And so it goes back to kind of what we were talking to about the routine, the regular practice of whatever you want your focus to be. That's gonna not only drive your own momentum, but also shape the community around you. So, if your focus is creativity, you're going to develop a community of creatives or people that want to support creatives. If it's about performance and tech, like guys who are balling, go to Chris so they know, like, look, I know what I need in a shoe, and is this shoe going to be right? Chris is going to be able to tell them that. you know, other folks are going to be money minded, and that's all right, as long as you know that people are going to change up when the money's going to change up. So like, we all have our focus, and we're going to develop communities around that, and we all have our interests, and it's good to know that you're not part of just one community. Like, all these things that shape us, you know, you can be a member of that community, or you can be kind of an outlier. I've always considered myself an outlier, just because who thinks of making masks out of sneakers? Like, it's just absurd. I still know that, like, it's still a strange thing. I never thought that that was going to be my path, but yeah, you just kind of I guess find your North Star and follow that, like whatever your focus is, and be mindful of it, because that's what you're going to attract to yourself as well.
Yeah, for me, I think we're coming up on, I can't even remember actually when we started our Discord. So I can't remember if it's coming up on 1 year or 2 years, because it just feels like they've been around kind of forever, which is interesting because I can clearly remember when they weren't around, and it was right around that time frame, like that tail end, where me personally, as like a YouTube person, I was just feeling like real burnt out, and like I've not stopped since '09 with doing this. And my aspect of YouTube is not just talking. It was also a lot of physical stuff because of you know, the performance side of things. So like, I was constantly injured, and I'm getting old and all that stuff. So it was just a bunch of everything, right? And then you add to that like the lack of like brand support or this, that, or the other, because I refuse to kind of like drop my integrity and just be nice. You know what I mean? Because like, being nice is not part of a review. It's not purposefully being mean, but it's being honest. You know what I mean? And so all of those things just, you know, I've had like really high highs and really low lows and stuff like that. So at that point, I was just ready. Like, I was like, yo, dude, I'm fucking done with this shit. Like, I'm ready to go. And my business partner, Drew, co-founder of Wear Testers, he was like, no, like, we should do this Discord. He was pitching the Patreon thing, and I was like, I'm not asking fucking people for money, dude. Like, that's like, I might as well go stand out on the corner and shit, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and have people like drop things in my cup and stuff. And so like, to me, I just wasn't trying to do that. And then he was trying to explain to me like what it was about, and kind of like what Gary's saying, or even you, Nick, it's not just handing people free money. You know what I mean? It is showing support in a different way, this new digital way, other than just eyeballs and stuff like that. And so it's been really just weird for me even now. Like, when I think about it, it's just like if it wasn't for those people in that Discord community, like, I probably would have checked out by now. You know what I mean? Like, I'd just be like, you know. And so yeah, so it's just really interesting how, I guess that's like the whole full circle of the community thing though, where like when you're at your lowest point, like, that community could really lift you up. You know what I'm saying? And so like, it's cool that there are people like that out there, because after everything that I had been through up until that point, I was really like, just people are shit, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the people at the brands, this person over there, that's everybody's trying to gas you up, and then they fucking let you fall, or like, everybody approaches you with a "my man," you know. And it's just like, as soon as you say that, I'm just like, get the fuck away from me, dog. Like, I know that you a lying ass mofo, you know what I mean? So I'm just like it's like stuff like that. And so so it was the community that really like brought me back into this like no, like, people really do support you, you know what I mean? And they want to hear you say whatever it is that you're going to say, whether it was good or bad, whatever, as long as you are honest. And so it's like giving me like almost like a pat on the back and been like, bro, you've been fine. You know what I mean? Like, you've been doing good. You don't have to worry, all that stuff. And so like, it's stuff like that. And I don't know if these people actually know how much like people like us appreciate them. You know what I mean? Because like, again, like, I don't have brand deals, man. Like, I don't get paid by whomever to post a picture of a shoe. If you see something, it's because I fucking paid for it. And the reason why I was able to pay for it is because my support system donates $5 every month or $10 every month. You know what I mean? And if it's not for those people, then you're not getting all of that content. And so I'm really like, not just grinding for me, for my family, stuff like that, but it's for all of those fucking people that are in that Discord community that's always like You know what I mean? Whether it doesn't even matter what time you need to hit me up, man. Like I'm usually awake. So like you hit me and I'll be like, yeah, man, let's talk. You know what I mean? And so like, and I just think it's a really interesting thing. Like perspective is everything. And I'm not trying to discount any of the negative stuff that's happened because of the pandemic and stuff like that. But I do think that overall it has been a good, I think a lot of us needed a break. You know what I mean? And also it shows us that a lot of people needed each other. You know what I mean? And a lot of people can do this work and not have to deal with going and driving somewhere or need, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you can, like I drive by a school all the time and I'm just like, look at all of that wasted space with all of, like my kids are learning at home. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and I understand they're not getting the same type of education, like that traditional type of education, but they're still getting educated. And I'm just like, man, all that space is just wasted. All these office buildings is a waste. Like we're such a wasteful race. You know what I mean? Like humans. And it's just like really weird. So, yeah, so I definitely think everything is about perspective and just, especially through that pandemic thing, man, that shit really shifted my perspective in a different way that I didn't see. Like I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, to your point about when you start, you know, building that community, right? Because I think like to Gary's point, right? Like it's almost like this sounds bad because I went through the same thing with you know, starting the Patreon and the Discord for the sneaker history followers, right? Like you guys know sneaker history is really just like my place to post fucking old shit that I like and random shit that I like in the sneaker world, right? Like it's never been a money-making thing for me. It's really been a way for me to connect with people that want to do cool shit together more than anything, right? It's like I've had the ups and downs with it. There's been times where I've taken jobs or work and I've been like, okay, I can't post this because I don't want it to be a conflict. I don't want it to be, you know, I just don't want it to even be connected to my you know, my day job, you know, like all the freelance stuff that I'm doing or all the consulting and contracting work that I do. So I've never done any sponsored anything on there. You know, I think at one point, you know, I did some stuff for a brand that was like something I was going to do anyway. Like I don't even remember. Like it was like hey, you know, like this shoe's coming out, right? It's like, well, fuck. It's like, you know, if it's a shoe that I was going to talk about anyway, I don't need, you know, like I don't even need the money for like I'm going to post about this anyway because it's actually the Tai Chi, right? When the Tai Chi came back out, and it's like, you know, like that's fucking stuff that I love. Like you could probably Google Tai Chi, and I've probably written about it 30 times. So like, you don't like, I don't even want to convolute what I do by taking, you know, the couple $100 that it might have been to do that, right? And so that's kind of always been this like really tough thing for me to wrap my head around because there's always been people super supportive of what I do, and like, you know, I'm just ridiculously grateful for that. But at that same time, we're all programmed a little bit differently in terms of like asking for that help, right? Like I had the same conversation that you had, Chris, with Drew. I had that conversation with Fomer 2.5, 3 years ago. And he was like, yo, you just got to do it, man. There are people out there that want to support you. And it literally was like, I mean, I remember calling Jacques. I remember like literally texting my brother about it. Like, what do you think about this? Because it's really hard to just be like, yo, this is what I do. If you like what I do, shoot me, you know, buy me dinner, shoot me, you know, buy me a coffee. I signed up for that when I started writing these things, right? Because I'm like, okay, like I'm barely getting by right now. And so part of me in all of this pandemic was finding ways like this whole sneaker combos thing to just get out of looking at all the negative stuff, right? Like force myself to the point that we talked about earlier to get in and just grind, because good shit happens when that happens, right? But what's really fascinating too, like on the other side of the Patreon and the Discord and all of that, you know, I joined Gary's, and you know, like every time I get the monthly thing, I'm like, I'm so thankful to have that. Look, I love your art and love you, man. I'm actually most thankful that I get that, and I think about how I failed at doing what you do, because when I first started Patreon, I had this grandiose idea of like, I would love to make T-shirts every month. I would love to make stickers. I would love to make all these various things and send them to people. But I also need to make sure that I pay my rent. So
Yeah.
the early like 10, 20 people that joined Patreon and Discord, like they know like, yeah, I didn't come through with any of the things I promised. And like some of those people, some people have come and gone, but like they're still super supportive of what I do. And I'm so grateful for that, because they gave me room to make the mistake and learn from it, right? And
Yes.
that's such a challenging thing when you create all the time and you get in this habit, and then you have, a pandemic come along or whatever other things, right? Like, we've all, as the term goes, dropped the bag or missed the bag in various ways just by not doing what we could have done in certain situations.
Oh yeah.
And that's a part of learning, right? But it's wild to think like how, I'm super thankful for the money, because we've been able to keep the lights on and the internet paid. Sometimes it's not as good as we like, but hey, like we're still here, right? And but like at the same time, like it's actually more of the emotional support for me that I totally did not expect from that group that matters at this point.
Oh, I can 100% agree with that. And Nick, you may have seen the post that I did earlier this week. I have been struggling. I don't watch a lot of YouTube. Video is king, and that's probably been the biggest hindrance to my career, because I'm still making content like it's 2014 and here we are in 2021. So I'm constantly trying to do more stuff with video, trying to take the what I look at as difficulty out of it. Like, people are not making it hard. I'm the one who's making it hard. So I've just been doing like every now and then a video confessional. And by the end of the video, I'm like, you know what, guys, I don't even want to post this, but I have enough comfort and trust in that audience that I don't mind sharing that behind the scenes of like, I'm not feeling it right now. And most of the time they love it. Not that I'm in a bad place, but just that they know, like, if you're having a shit day, look, so am I. This may seem like a dream job, but I'm pulling my hair out and I'm going gray. Like, and if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. So, it's one of those things where you always try to be grateful and show your gratitude towards them. And I've just been lucky to have really understanding folks in that Patreon community. I think that's, and I've just gotten on the Discord to try to understand more of the NFT community, but it sounds like that's what it is there too, is you end up developing your diehards, or like I call them, the apostles for me, because they're there. And our phrase is less followers, more believers. I'm not looking for you to follow what I do. I'm looking for you to believe in what I do. And the apostles for me are those people. And I was reluctant with Patreon as well. Like, lots of artists don't mind asking for $1 for the work. And I think that's why I developed such a merch heavy response. Like, I'm not asking for free. If you're signing up to be a patron, you're getting pins, stickers, t-shirts. For $2, you're just getting access to the content. Because for so many years, I was like, if I have 100,000 plus followers, how do I get $1 from each one of those followers every year? Every year, I'm not making $100,000 a year. Yep. Like, if I could translate that audience into dollars, like, that would be great. And I'm nowhere near those numbers. But what instead I've developed is that community of trusting, inner circle. So I think, that's even more valuable, and hopefully those circles grow, and it's just a matter of time. I thought the pandemic would dwindle the numbers, but folks have stuck around, and
that's been the surprising portion of
Right.
that is
Yeah.
like with money getting tight, I was like, oh, I'm fucked again. Like, there we go.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, I thought it was
exactly.
Dude, it
It's
was crazy. And go ahead. Sorry.
Drew just said it. I was going to say, like, less followers, more believers, and apostles. Like, honestly, like, I'm ready to join the cult. Like, it sounds like something my mom would have told me to stay away from, which makes me want to be a part of it. But like, that's such a beautiful way of putting it, because like
it really worked out so kind of crazy, and they kind of named themselves, but it came about the time that right around Thanksgiving, I cut my index finger working on a project, and so I can't move the tip of this finger anymore, and like this pose is like I grew up Catholic, so it's a very saintly and apostolic pose. So they got their own logo, and get exclusive shirts printed with it on it, and it's become like kind of a badge of honor, like a little team of day ones.
Yeah, it's dope, man, and it's so true, right? Like, that's, we're all trying to find those believers and not the followers, right? Like the numbers, like you said, that's such a great point too. Like, just if you look at the followers that you have, and if you could get $1 from each person, like, we'd all be feeling much better about things right now. Yeah. And it's crazy that like that's so far fetched in a sense, right? Like, like
it doesn't translate at all.
No, and at the same time, like, I don't think that like, if you genuinely could ask and have a conversation with all, let's say, use the 100,000 as an example, right? If you could actually have like a 30-second, hey, would you give me $1? Because like, this is, I do this stuff because I need to get paid, and I don't want to go take corporate money, or I don't want to go, like, I feel like you could make a huge amount more than what we all collectively make from our, tens of thousands of followers, right? Like,
sure,
people would absolutely give you that $1, but the internet, social, all these things, like, almost like convolute all that stuff so much, to kind of to Chris's point about like the ups and downs of YouTube videos, even, like, nothing is reliable. It's all volatile right now, and
you're only as hot as your last project, and that it's been that way for our industry and plenty of others.
Yep.
But it's eat what you kill.
Yeah. Yep. How do you guys I mean, this might be a tough question, but it's kind of interesting to think about, because of what you're saying of like, if you did have that 100,000, they all gave you $1. I guess, how long until we take this like community that we've created and fostered, and that have embraced us all as creators and what we do, and like stop fucking with an Instagram or a YouTube, or like, like, at some point you probably, I'm not analytical enough to get into the numbers of it, but like, just to like, my thought process here, if I look at like Chris's videos, right? And, let's say like 20,000 views, every video is going to get 20,000 views, whether that's good or bad, like average 20,000 views. To get 20,000 people to give you, $1 or 50 cents or a quarter, or whatever that is, through your own community, as we evolve in this, like, I mean, it's kind of fascinating, because it doesn't seem as far-fetched as it used to, right? Like, I'm blown away that like we get a few $100 out of our Patreon, because look, I've been paying for podcast host shit, I've been paying for the website, I've been paying for all these, like, like all the stuff that goes into the website, all just, like, services nickel and dime you to death, right? And like, this year was like the first of me, like, okay, what do I have to have that the consumer and the fan is never going to see going away? And that process is hellish anyway. But then, like, once I even am, super thankful for our group, because, look, I've been really lucky to be a part of this sneaker thing. I've also bought way too many shoes. I bought shoes intending to give them away, Yeah, exactly. And you know, Chris and I have talked about the giveaway stuff and the giving back and all that many times. But like, I just was like, okay, look, I need to figure out how to remove my income from the sneaker history process of like, I need to have $500 a month to cover all these basic ass things, and nobody outside is going to see that the rest of it goes away, right?
Yeah.
And I switched things up. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do a giveaway. Now I have a guy, Greg. Shout out to Greg, who probably is watching or will listen to this later. He actually does a ton of the like stuff within the Discord to get the people involved in. We're doing a trivia night now. We're doing giveaways. We're doing Zoom calls with the crew just to like give people access to the guys that are on the podcast. Any way that we can connect with these people, because you know, to your point about the believers, right? They are the believers, right? Like
Yeah.
I say it in our Discord almost every week. I'm like, yo, I'm so thankful. I can't wait to not have to deal with Instagram and all these other algorithms and the bullshit, right? Because we're all here. If I can get, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I feel like a broken record saying it, but there's a guy, Kevin Kelly, wrote a I guess like a blog post, but it's kind of like a little bit longer than a blog post, but it's called 1,000 True Fans. And it is spot on what I'm chasing at this point, because he basically said, like, stop thinking about all the bullshit that's out there on the internet. Find those 1,000 people that will support you with whatever that is, $20, $50, $100, $1,000. Find those 1,000 true fans, and that's how you'll find success. And you'll probably go way above 1,000 once you find those 1,000, because they'll become kind of like, you know, they'll become the apostles for you. They'll become the believers that go, you know, gas you up and bring new people to the family. So I guess like I'm long-winded, but I'm going to circle back. Like, is it going to be possible for you guys, do you think, to, you know, I mean, there'll always be some aspect of social media, right? Because once you get to a certain point, that also draws people in. But like, could you see a future where you just build your own community, you know, and kind of foster that within, you know, like, let's say within a Patreon or a Discord, or, you know, there's so many various aspects or platforms to do that now. But
well,
I'd love to think that there's a day that I could build numbers up that wouldn't be necessary to be on so many platforms. But just at the way the speed of tech has been progressing, I don't think that day would ever come. Because even if I have, say, 1,000 diehard fans on my Patreon, that fluctuates. Some come, some go, and if you put your head down and don't pay attention, don't reach out to new people, you're going to wake up and go, I'm just talking in a vacuum. These folks have heard me say these things, and there's nothing new. There's no new input. There's no new, like, as appreciative as I am for those folks that have been around since Mask 1 and have been supporting in every way they can, I'm just as grateful for the folks that come to me and go, I can't believe I've never seen your work before. And I'm like, great. That tells me I haven't capped out. Like, don't tell me everyone's seen the stuff and this is just how many people are into it. Let me know that each day I can find somebody new. And hopefully I can keep that energy, because, you know, after a decade of being like one new fan today, it can be a little bit I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, but you don't want to be
sounds a lot like
ungrateful
YouTube.
Yeah, I'm sure. I tell you, I can't even get into it just yet, and I know I kind of have to.
Well, it'll so like this conversation that Nick's bringing up of like this is something that Drew and I have talked about many times, where maybe we'll have enough supporting backers, I guess, in the Discord to where we could just remove ads off of our platforms. That way we can make it smoother and stuff like that. Because for some reason, some people think that because there's an ad or an affiliate link that we're bought, and it's like, no, that's actually just a kickback. You know what I mean, for us being on the platform, or for the referral or whatever, and stuff like that. And that's the bulk of the money and stuff. But attention spans are so small right now that some people, and this is really interesting too, is that some people don't realize, for whatever reason, that ad that's on that video is my paycheck. You know what I'm saying? So like all that money that I spent on that piece of camera equipment, that lens, this shoe, plus my time, plus the computer software, and the computer that it belongs in to edit. You know what I'm saying? Like all of that stuff costs money, and then that's this end 10-minute video or whatever, the end result. And so for me to be able to get that, a lot of times people will skip through the ad though, because it's I don't think people can really help it, but like a lot of people are selfish, you know what I mean? And like we're in that kind of like consumerism space as well. Like all this stuff here costs hella money, and it's for me, you know what I mean? And so like we're in this like I need more, even though we really don't and stuff like that, but we like talking about it with each other. And so it's like when you explain like, hey, if you actually like watch however many, or don't skip that ad or whatever, don't have your ad blocker up, that does help me out. And they're like, oh shit. And then they'll be cool about it. Some people will be like, what the fuck is all this ad for? That's the person where you're just like, you know what I mean? Like that's not your support. I don't like using the word fan, because like fans turn on you like that. They're like, oh, I've been whatever. But like a supporter is like down with you. They gotten to know you or whatever and all that stuff. So I like when we have like real supporters, and kind of like what Gary's saying, I don't know if there will ever be a point when that's possible, just because there's always a new platform. And that's the thing that's like really weird. So like it was just the internet, you know what I mean? And then it was chat rooms. And then from chat rooms, it was forums. And then from forums, it was, I don't even know, like text messaging or some shit. Like, you know what I mean? And then from that, and then there's YouTube videos. And then now there's, what was it? It was Vine. And then, yeah, dude, like just everything, bro. Yeah. And like TikTok, all of this stuff, you know what I mean? And so like every generation's got their little platform, and I'm stuck on this YouTube platform. I'm still getting used to Discord, man. Like, I'll be honest, like Discord is wild. Like that place is like fucking, like I post something, cause like sometimes I get irritated when like something releases and it's gone instantly. Right. And like, I'm just like, oh, it had to have been a bunch of bots. But like these people, like, and I put out a thing on Discord, I'm telling you, bro, like they're right there. Like, and I'm just like, no wonder I can't, it's all of you people. I can't buy nothing. You know what I mean? Like you guys are just ready when a notification comes and stuff, and all that stuff. And I got my like notifications, like the sounds off. So like, I'm never like, I don't like the ping thing. Yeah, so like I always miss out on stuff, but yeah, like people are wild, man. Like they'll be there for you, which is really cool. So I think as long as whatever platform you're on, as long as you stay true to whatever it is that like how you originally started, like it's those people that are always going to be kind of like around you and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, and I think it's really important to focus on that. It's also important to grow, and pay a little bit of attention to the analytics. But I think at the end of the day, like the only analytics that I'm looking at and the purpose that I'm looking at them for is because I'm comparing my last video to this video. And I'm not comparing it to that guy's video or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's just like my competition at this point is just, I'm staring at myself in the face. And so if this video didn't pop off, it's either the product's fault or it's my fault. It's like one of the two, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's funny because I'm in Foamer and Buckets' Discord, and you know, like listen to those guys bullshit on the podcast whenever I can. And one of the things that Foamer said in the last couple of weeks that, you know, I do this, and it's funny because my girlfriend and I watch a lot of YouTube. You know, we'll make food, we'll sit down on the couch and we'll throw on a YouTube video or something, right? And you know, I'm very conscious about like, yo, let the commercial play, you know, let the ad run so people get paid on it. But Foamer said something that was really fascinating about sponsored posts and stuff on Instagram. And I think this applies to kind of everything, but like he said, I forget if he said there was like some negative comments around a sponsored post that he saw or something like that. But essentially he was, what his point was that, you know, even if you look at a paid post or something with an ad on YouTube and think like, if you can think that I'm not gonna watch this ad for this person or click on this and say I like this or leave a comment on a paid Instagram post, if you don't do that for somebody you already follow, you're a hater. like straight up, like you're a hater, right? Because
support
look,
is definitely a active engagement type of thing. Like you can't be a part, like just sitting back and watching other people. Like you got to get in there and do what you can.
yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because like, look, we all are in this place where, you know, like we talked about brand deals, whatever kind of deals, right? Like we're all trying to figure out how to do this thing that we love and actually make enough to support ourselves and our families, you know, and our puppies, right? Like this is like the thing, right? So like to think of that, you know, he just like the way he said it, I was just like, fuck, man, that's nuts. Because, you know, like I don't see a lot. I don't actually go on Instagram and scroll hardly at all. Like I'm like I look at that as like, you know, that's like the last thing I need to be doing. I'm trying to like be off my phone as much as possible when I'm not doing something productive. And that's a challenge, obviously, because sometimes you just, you know, I want to be on there. I want to feel connected, especially in COVID, and like want to feel like I'm up on what you guys are doing and everybody else that I'm friends with. And but then at the same time, like to have that and to think like, you know, I was like, wow, I wish that message could just go out there, right? Because if you're following somebody and you think that you shouldn't like or click or comment or watch a thing that is paid for or an advertisement ahead of what they do, like you've got it all twisted. Like look, these people are doing this and they're putting up, like most of us are putting up with the ads or putting up with the brand that we've got to work with. We're not actively wanting, you know, with the exception of like we've all made friends that end up working for, you know, people that we end up doing business with. But most of the time it's like, you know, we don't ever want to go down that path of like, you know what I mean? Like we want the ultimate creative freedom no matter what we do. But that's
well, that's not the way that's not the way the world works, though.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
Like
something that I was
the internet's giving us like free stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to circle back to when we were talking about, is there ever a number that you would reach that we could like not worry about other social networks? And whereas I don't have a number for that, I definitely have numbers that would allow me certain freedoms. Whereas, you know, I'd love to not care about the cost, or, you know, to be able to choose a shoe to work with and a project to do because it's just what I want to do. But I have to take in other factors.
Yeah.
What's that resale price? You know, for me, I've actually shied away from that, and I've probably, you know, lost some ground because I ignored hype so much that I haven't touched anything except for like shit that I liked that I could get at a good price, thinking that people wouldn't be so mad that I wasn't chopping up hype shoes. But it also, people were bored because I wasn't chopping up hype shoes. So it's like, if I double my numbers on Patreon, you're going to see a wide variety of shoes being chopped down versus like where my numbers are at now, where it just kind of pays for itself. It pays for those pins and the t-shirts. And then if whatever's left of that stock after Patreon gets theirs, if those sell, that brings money in. So it's like, there's so many different connections to make, and those things eventually can buy you those freedoms to do whatever you want to do, hopefully, you know. And those are the milestones that you, I think, should really set for yourself, is like, how do I get to those points of not having to take that sponsored ad, or not having to, like you said, compromise your integrity because you want to say what you want to say reviewing a shoe. These are all things that our community can provide us because that's what they want to hear from us. They don't, and I think that backlash, or that haterism, if you will, of not liking a sponsored post or not watching that ad before the video is just that lack of understanding that, like, if you want me to keep doing this, this is what comes with it. And if you don't want to watch that ad, which is only going to cost you time, maybe put a couple of dollars into my Discord or my Patreon, or order something from the site. Like, there's so many different ways to support an artist. And I think our responsibility, and most of us who've been doing it as long as we have, focus on what we can give back to our community when they are supporting us. I think most of our audience members would agree that, you know, what they give us, they get back in return, and we do everything we can to kind of trade in abundance.
Yeah, I think like finding, not just finding the people that are willing to, but also like understanding which ones are not worth your time. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I wouldn't even like bother with the dude that's like, oh, he's not liking it. Like, hey, whatever, man. Like, you could like whatever you want to like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just like I could like whatever I want to like. That's why it's cool that we're able to connect through the internet with like-minded individuals. Because again, at the end of the day, that's all a community is. A community is a bunch of like-minded individuals. Sometimes we get stuck into a community, like when we move somewhere, like everybody around us, all of our neighbors, we're now community. We might not like one person or the next, but at the end of the day, we're protecting this block, right? So like, this is our spot. Whereas online, you choose to be here. So like, if you choose to be here just to hate, you can do that, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But just know that like, I don't fuck with you beyond that point, right? So it's like beyond the content itself, me and you, like, we're not anything. But all of the people that go above and beyond, because again, I didn't expect anybody to, but that not just understand when I say something and they're like, oh, now I get it. Like, and that's a lot of what things is that like a lot of things, a lot of conflict is just based off of ignorance. You know what I mean? And you have to be patient enough to be able to be like, hey, this is why thing. I just had this conversation with somebody on through DMs on what's the thing called? Instagram. And he was asking me like, hey, like, would you do, like, how come you haven't done a review on this shoe? And I was like, oh, well, just people don't fucking care about that shoe, bro. Like, it is what it is, you know? And then like, he was just like, well, I care about it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And I think that's really great. And me and you might both care about that, but the majority might not. So like, if I go and spend X amount of money on that shoe, which is at the end of the day what I got to do, and then I spend X amount of time making the video and doing as much research as I can to make the video fun and informative, you know what I'm saying? And then I put out the video and the video's a dud and I'm just like negative whatever I just spent. That's going to put me out of business real fast. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I have to find a very fine balance between mixing in the stuff that I like and that you like and things like that, plus what's currently just what people are into. You know what I mean? And that trend always changes. And when I had that conversation with the person didn't get mad. He understood. He was just like, oh shit, that's crazy. Like, I didn't think about it like that. And it's just like, yeah, like that's all it is. Like, people don't want to have some sort of open dialogue for some reason. Everybody's so scared to talk to each other. Yeah. And it's like, if y'all stop being a pussy, man, like, people are not really like mad at each other like that. You know what I mean? Like, we're just not. Like, that's a lot of wasted energy in and of itself. And so I think that it's great when, again, you can connect with those people, and then that's what you should really be focusing on, is instead of, you know, all of this stuff, and just really narrow down the focus onto what matters and stuff. And it just makes things a lot easier for you to navigate, because you're on this like really cool path with other cool people that you, again, had no idea were even like cool like that, but you're like, damn, man, that's crazy. Like, you got my back like that. That's really cool. Now I'm going to get yours on top of that.
That open communication is key. Like, you have to have that communication for the community. Like, without taking that effort, like, you're really not growing that connection with those people. Like, you have to have that open line of communication. And I think that's why we have all these different platforms, is we're still looking for that way that works best for each of us. Yep, 100%. Yeah. So it's laughable when I see folks that like shy away from that. Like, oh, you spend a whole lot of time typing that. I mean, okay, we could go on Clubhouse and I could say the same thing. Like, are you just afraid of words? Like, why, if you're not trying to hear the conversation, why start the discussion, right? Like,
exactly. It's just interesting.
And I think that's part of it's like, for me as somebody who's like, you know, creating a bunch of different types of content, you know, like, I default to writing as like the thing that I get the most joy out of, but it does, you know, like, it pays nothing, right? Like, there is no money in writing right now, right? Like, there are people that have, Russ Bankston is a perfect example. This is a guy that I looked up to, absolutely is a better writer than 90% of the people out there in sneakers, for sure, probably in all of life, if he's given the opportunity. And, you know, like, he's you know, he's you know, in the midst of a book deal and all these things, but like in general, he's also looking for work, right? So it's interesting because like I think we're all trying to figure out the places that work the best for those conversations. And you know, I mean, this whole sneaker convos idea, right, is that, right? Like I think that like one of the things, like, so I got to talk to Wex and Jacques and Tamara this earlier today, right? And you know, I think it's fascinating because like with somebody that's as publicly kind of attached to Kanye and Adidas as Wex is, I also know that like he doesn't want to talk about that shit, right? Like we don't want to talk about, you know, like we don't want to talk about. Look, like I think all three of us might have even had this conversation, but like, when was the last time like the people that we become friends with in the sneaker community? When was the last time we actually like either saw them or met up or were like DMing or texting about what pair of shoes you wore? We don't even talk about shoes anymore, right? Like that's the beauty of it. And it's not that I don't love the shoes, right? Like if like one of us turned around and walked to the wall and pulled something back, we could talk for another 6 hours about one shoe between the three of us. But that's the thing that's really fascinating. And like Wex, so my goal with this was to like kind of back up from the negativity that happens in the sneaker space, right? Bring as many people as I possibly can together, have a bunch of these important conversations. And one of the things that Wex said at the end of our conversation, which kind of like almost sealed the success of this for me personally, was like, you know, he said that, you know, sneakers has been overwhelmingly negative, and the conversation felt like a community again. And it's great because that was also, you know, unintentionally, like the timing of people just coming in and you know, being available, that led into this conversation. And you know, the other YouTube dudes that I talked to a bit ago about like how they navigate even thinking about that. But like it's awesome and challenging and all of that stuff. And you know, to be able to talk to you guys about it is like another reminder for me of like why all this struggle for the past year has been worth it. Because you know, it's I think that to Chris's point, I don't know if this was before we started recording or not, but like the stuff that we've learned from this last year and the stuff that we've, you know, dealt with, and you know, like it's we all are at different paces. We're all at different, you know, times in our lives where every little thing it has a completely different impact on our success, our emotional, you know, well-being, our happiness, our relationships, all that, right? And I think that, you know, talking to you guys is one of those things that just like gets me juiced again. And like I'm just like going through my mind like, okay, how are we gonna make, like, you know, we'll talk offline, but I'm like, yo, we got to do some shit together again. Like we got to figure out some stuff, right? And like I hope that this becomes something that we can do in person, because I always enjoy talking to you guys. You know, I miss just like bullshitting and running into each other at random ass places that we don't expect to see each other. And you know, I think like I hope that, you know, the people that are watching understand that like as much as we're like all trying to build our own little communities, you know, this like collective of people that are creative in this sneaker space also has a lot of respect for each other, and like we all are looking at the same, like how do we make this experience better for the people that are out there supporting us. So you know, I was only planning on going about an hour and we've gone well over that, so I'm gonna wrap it up. But I'll ask you guys, I guess, the last question. With like all this COVID shit, right? All this pandemic stuff, since that became kind of one of the heavier topics for us, what's the thing that you're most looking forward to when we're in some form of normal again? Definitely does not have to be sneaker related.
It's beers and hot wings over at the hockey rink. Man, I'm lucky because we literally went like the night they announced that the NBA was kind of like veering off, like everything's changing, like quieted down right now. We were at the bar and I was like, well, little last hurrah before we lock down real quick. And yeah, luckily, but I'm still thinking about those damn wings. Not the same without people around you, though.
True.
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, it might be, you know, a little of everything. Because like I want it to be something as simple as going out and eating, and because like having a normal meal would be great, not having to take it to go, and you know what I'm saying, like all that stuff. And then at the same time though, like being able to have a conversation like this, not just with each other in the same room, but then also to be able to further the conversation with the people that might be there watching and listening. Because that's always something that I enjoy as well. Like when we were at DesignerCon together, like it was cool after the panel because there was, I don't know, like I'm always like nobody's watching me, you know what I mean? And then like you find out, like you get to meet face to face the people that fuck with you, and I was just like, man, it's cool and stuff. And so and I'm not even like a real like people person. Like I'm probably like the most solo motherfucker that you'll ever meet. Like I'm just cool by myself. And so even with that, I'll be like, yo, like, you know, and so I think that stuff like that would be fun. Obviously I want to play basketball again, like real basketball on a hardwood floor where I can like maybe play the next day too, because the concrete really jacks my shit up. And so like you know, so just all kinds of stuff, you know, getting the kids to school, like a normal school, and having some time to actually create different content, stuff like that. But again, the pandemic's done lots of good things too. It's made me more focused. It's made me more appreciative, more aware of a whole lot of stuff. I'm like on a regular basis. Like I used to work. This is where I met my wife. I used to work at AMC theaters. Okay. And that was the last like minimum wage job that I had before. Like I had like a contracted wage job, or like I don't know what it's called, but like just a salary, like a set salary. And so that was the last job that I had that was like minimum wage. And you know, it was a shit job and stuff like that, but I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot of things there. And then to find out that was one of the businesses so heavily affected by this whole thing, where like I'm sitting there being like, man, what if I still worked at AMC, dude? Like I'd just be like furloughed right now, bro. Like I'd be just so
I was a waiter. I would
know?
have been up Shit's Creek. Like
Me too. Yeah, me too, man. Yep. Waiting tables.
And so it's like really crazy to, and I know that that's a long time ago because I've been doing this for 12 years. So I know that that's a long ass time ago, but still, like I can't help go back and think and be like, man, you know, like every time I've come up with an idea and you get that bubbly, like fucked up feeling in your stomach where you're like not sure if this is the right thing to do. You might take a shit or throw up. You're not sure yet. You know what I mean? Like whenever I've had that feeling and then I followed it, like it somehow led me right to this moment. You know what I'm saying? And so like I'm just like super grateful for all of the bubble guts, man. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's funny as you said that. I think the other part that I would hope that people take away from this, and I'm sure you guys agree with this, is like you get to a point where you've already done the shitty stuff. You've already worked for nothing. You've already worked for pennies. You've already, you know, man, Gary and I working as waiters in California, it can be a garbage ass job. Like, I mean,
even worse, I was a waiter in Virginia where they don't pay you minimum wage. It's $2.13 plus tips.
That's exactly how it was for me when I was in Colorado waiting tables. $2.13 plus tips. Imagine like if you don't have tips right now, those people don't have tips. Are you going to work for $2 an hour? Come on, like, look, I'd rather be out there, you know, selling something else if it's for that kind of shit money. I can make more money.
Tricks, Nick.
Something, yeah, you know. But I think like that's the thing. Like once you've done those things, you almost have no fear towards the other things, right? Like, yeah, you have ups and downs. You got to have the money. The ups and downs of money will always be challenging. But once you've like come to that realization of like, honestly, you know, like not that I want to go wait tables, but like I'd figure it out. Like I made it through once already. I'd figure my way out of that again if I had to go back. So, but well, fellas, it's been a pleasure. and like, I'm so thankful you guys had the time and made the time to make this happen, because you know I miss you guys both. I hope that we can actually fucking get together and shoot the shit at some point soon. So
It'll be that much sweeter when we do.
yeah, most definitely.
It won't be too much longer, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm starting to actually feel a little optimism towards it. So like, that's
A little bit of light shining.
yeah,
it's far
a little
off, but it's there.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
So all right, guys. Well, thank you again. Be safe. And
You
I'll
too.
talk to you guys soon.
Bet.
Likewise, Nick.
Peace.